You know what's crossed my mind recently? Miitopia's getting a Switch port. Ain't that wild? As innocuous as this may seem from the outside looking in, it actually does set a precedent. This is the first original Nintendo-developed 3DS game to receive a port to the Nintendo Switch. Aside from Sushi Striker, which was developed for the 3DS but ultimately ended up releasing simultaneously on it and the Switch. Fans had been asking specifically for the 3DS game Metroid Samus Returns to get the same treatment back when it launched in 2017, as the Switch was so much more tantalizing in what was at the time its release year. Plus, the Switch was incredibly popular with newcomers and late returners to Nintendo's console ecosystem, so it's likely that poor Samus missed out on a lot of potential sales by sticking to the then 6-year-old 3DS systems. I think it'd be a swell idea for Nintendo to release Samus Returns on the Switch. I'd hope that they'd keep it priced at $40, but knowing Nintendo, it'd probably be at least $50. That's just what they do, I guess. I wouldn't double dip at that price, but I'm sure thousands if not millions would, so whatever. Oh, how'd I get up here? Weird. Anyway, the 3DS has garnered a huge library of games in its nearly 10-year lifespan. So I figure while I'm thinking about it, why not do a top 10 video on the 3DS games I'd like to see ported to the Switch? Excluding Samus Returns, because I just talked about it and don't want to be redundant. So I guess this is a top 11 video?
My top 11?
Oh gosh, what have I become?
Go one step beyond.
Number 10. Rhythm Heaven Megamix. The Rhythm Heaven games are kooky, quirky, funky, funny, well-paced, swell-faced, chock full of potential adages, and lots more descriptive adjectives. And Megamix for the 3DS was a grand compilation of some of the best the series has had to offer. It's too perfect for a Switch port. And if it were to end up selling well, it could persuade Nintendo to prioritize a new game moving forward. Or they could keep the series on the shelf for a decade or more like they do most of their series. Either way. Number 9. Dillon's Rolling Western Trilogy. A short-lived but well-developed new series that started life on the 3DS eShop and ended it with a physical release in the year 2019 when nobody cared about 3DS games anymore. Ow. The Dillon games could very well find new life if they were to be ported to the Switch in one big convenient package. And if it were priced at $40 and advertised as being 3 full adventures in one budget package, that'd certainly give it a leg up that the 3DS never gave it. But even aside from the business talk, I really like the world, characters, and music of this series. And the mix of third-person adventure combat and tower defense is really unique. It'd be a shame if all these ideas ended up dying without being given a proper shot at success. I mean, Nintendo never even at least gave the first 2 games a physical bundle before releasing the 3rd game for a full $40. I just really don't get them sometimes. Most of the time. I don't get them most of the time. Number 8. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time plus Majora's Mask. The 3DS remakes of the Nintendo 64 Zelda games, while not perfect and perhaps even lacking in some areas, are still fine ways of experiencing these games. The visuals would look nigh perfect the way they already are on the Switch. Though if Nintendo still wanted to do some spit and polish here and there, I wouldn't blame them. And you know what? Assuming they wouldn't try to make this a limited time deal, I think paying $60 for 2 enhanced ports of remakes made for the 3DS of 2 of the most beloved video game classics of all time isn't a terrible deal. It would be the equivalent of paying $30 for each game, so not bad. That's only $10 more than their current Nintendo Select pricings on 3DS, which are only going to get more expensive on the second-hand market the more time goes by that the 3DS has been discontinued. Though as an aside, I really think both of those games' original Nintendo 64 ROMs should be included with Nintendo Switch Online for free, but whatever. Number 7. Yokai Watch Trilogy. The Yokai Watch games were a smash hit in Japan. The franchise's first movie made more in the Japanese box office than Star Wars The Force Awakens did. The series developer Level 5 really tried to get the West as hooked on the series as the Land of the Rising Sun was, but it sadly didn't end up panning out. I don't know if it was strictly due to cultural differences, or if gaming influencers like Jimmy Wetzel saying, "Guys, this game wants to be Pokemon so bad, don't play any monster collecting games aside from Pokemon, But either way, this series declined sharply after the initial 3DS games, and that may have been partially responsible for Level 5 becoming a strictly Japan-oriented company from now on before they could even make good on their promise to localize Yokai Watch 4. What a bummer. But despite all that, could you bring the original 3 mainline games to the Switch, please, Level 5? The visuals are beautiful, quite possibly the best looking on the entire 3DS. So very little work would even be required to get these games in their best possible state for reselling on an HD system. And while you're at it, could you localize Yokai Watch 4? I know none of the systems it's for are region locked, but it's the principle of the thing. Number 6. Codename S.T.E.A.M. I released a video on this game back in December 2020 that covered my thoughts on the experience as a whole, the reasons it's unlikely to get a sequel anytime soon, and also everything I'd like to see in a sequel that will probably never happen. It took months to make. Hardly anyone sat through it. Yeah, I don't know why I became so enamored with this game, but I did, and I am, and I love it, and it bombed. And it's only like $5 or less on the secondhand market, so it wouldn't even be that much of an investment if you wanted to try it yourself. And it's full of great ideas and characters. And the world building is some of the finest in any Nintendo game. And that's especially laudable considering how flat most premises like this fall. And I'd unironically pay $50 for an enhanced port of this game on the Switch that maybe cleans up the character models, improves the fast forward feature, and maybe actually animates the cutscenes or at the very least recreates them as comic book pages. And that entire segment was like 85% a run-on sentence. Moving on. Number 5. Kirby Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot and Battle Royale. 2 of the 4 free-to-play Kirby games from the 3DS have already come over to the Switch, so why not the full experiences they all derived from too? Kirby has historically done the best job of all Nintendo's franchises honoring its legacy content. So I'm sure Hal wouldn't mind putting most if not all of Kirby's entire 3DS lexicon as a standalone release for the Switch, excluding Extra Epic Yarn. The Wii version was better and should probably just get a $15 to $20 download release along with the rest of the Wii library. Someday. Probably not. Look, a sock can dream, okay? Let a sock dream! Number 4. Luigi's Mansion plus Dark Moon. The 3DS was the home of the charming but divisive Luigi's Mansion sequel Dark Moon, as well as a full remake of the first game with some new modes and features. Considering the Switch exclusive Luigi's Mansion 3 was such a smash hit, it would really be in both the fans' and Nintendo's best interest to port the previous 2 games to the Switch already. As a package with updated textures and enhanced gameplay, it'd absolutely be worth $60. Speaking as someone who's had a hard time tracking down an original GameCube copy of Luigi's Mansion 1, who's also curious about Dark Moon and very much enjoyed 3, I'd absolutely pick it up. Number 3. Ever Oasis. A new IP from internal Nintendo developer Grezzo, this 3D dungeon crawler adventure featuring characters designed by the notorious Hiroyuki Kawata, whose past work includes Kingdom Hearts and the Mana series, would surely charm the pants off of a major portion of the Switch-playing crowd. And hey, you guys know me. I love it when Nintendo tries new ideas with new IPs. I think Ever Oasis is unique enough in gameplay, premise, art, and style to merit getting at the very least a Switch port of its inaugural entry. Number 2. Mario Party The Top 100. Talk about a missed opportunity. This Mario Party game takes the supposed best of past Mario Party minigames and combines them for one release, on a handheld device. Gosh, this game should have been on the Wii U. But hey, as long as the game is just sitting there and the premise is so neat and easily understandable and full of fan service, Nintendo really ought to bring it to the Switch. And hey, if they go a step beyond and include the best of the best boards from series past, that'd make it a fierce rival to the Switch's divisive yet wildly successful Super Mario Party. Gosh, so much missed potential with the series in general, it seems. Before we move on to number 1, here are some honorable mentions. The Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds. Nintendo will inevitably port every Zelda game ever to the Switch and or whatever ends up being its successor, plus I already mentioned the 64 remakes, so I left it off the list. Super Mario 3D Land. Its identity reveled in the 3DS's glasses-free 3D, which the Switch doesn't have, so I left it off the list. WarioWare Gold. Very reliant on a variety of features the 3DS has that the Switch does not, so I left it off the list. Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D. The controls are better than the Wii counterpart, but those would be easily remappable from the Wii version to the Switch anyway, so I left it off the list. All the 3DS Fire Emblems. They make sense to port, but I'm not a fan of the series, so I left them off the list. All the 3DS Mario and Luigi's. They make sense to port, but Alpha Dream went bankrupt and I don't know whether or not Nintendo has the distribution rights. Plus, there's 4 of them, 2 of which look better on the GBA and DS, and the complete package would be missing partners in time. Plus, Nintendo would never compile 4 full games for $60, they couldn't even let 3D All-Stars have Galaxy 2, so I left them off the list. Nintendogs plus Cats. This series has been weirdly dormant considering how profitable it's been in the past, but I think the series return should be a new game rather than a 3DS port, so I left it off the list. Tomodachi Life. Literally all the exact same reasons as Nintendogs plus Cats, so I left it off the list. Chibi Robo Ziplash. This game blows, so I left it off the list. Pilot Wings Resort. Everything about this game should be something you can do in a much grander package of minigames and side modes taking place in Woohoo Island for the Switch, so I left it off the list. The Pokemon Gen 6 and 7 games. Pokemon do the whole remake thing at what's been a consistently set pace now for better or for worse, so I left it off the list. Also, I don't like them. Star Fox 64 3D. The Star Fox series needs to move away from this story and sequence of levels and bosses, so I left it off the list. And finally, all the wonderful eShop and third-party titles. I wanted to focus this video on Nintendo's own internal output in games that could feasibly get physical releases, so I left them all off the list. What? Oh, the Yokai Watch games totally count. Shut up. Now finally, the number one 3DS game that I feel most deserves a port to the Switch is number 1, Kid Icarus Uprising. Not only is this a supremely competent and content-rich package of a game, in a series that Nintendo had left to be remembered as an 8-bit memory before Masahiro Sakurai decided to make this absolute banger, which has elevated it to one of my favorite series in Nintendo's entire lexicon. But it was also stifled by a confusing control method with a very steep learning curve that no two people play in the same position. This game has always felt like it was dying to be ported to stronger hardware. The Wii U would have been a good fit considering it has the gamepad if they want to keep touch controls, and the Wiimote, which is just so good for shooters. But sadly, that never came to pass. The Switch, on the other hand, is still the perfect platform for Nintendo to take risks with their less successful IP. But we're now 4 years into its life, and the time frame Nintendo has left to take those less risky than they've ever been before risks is starting to shrink. So please, Nintendo, and Sakurai too, I guess, I don't know who gets final say in what to, please take advantage of what looks like a low-risk, high-reward situation and port this 3DS game to the Switch. Assuming it's touched up in all the right places, I wouldn't even mind paying $60 for it. I'm dead serious. And before you all call me a hypocrite, this game is really hard to get running right in Citra, okay? Give me a break. This has been my top 10 3DS games I'd like to see ported to the Switch. Plus, Samus Returns too, so I guess top 11 games I'd like to... Oh, you know what? I compiled a couple titles in some of those entries too, like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Luigi, and I guess it's 19. Top 19 games I'd like to... I shouldn't even mention the honorable mentions. That'd be... How many even would that be? You know what? Screw the numbers. Nintendo should just make every game they've ever had available on their latest systems. You know what? Screw Nintendo. Every game publisher should be doing this. Gosh, this is becoming a tangent. Ugh. Go on down to the comments and shut me up already. Get a word in edgewise. Join the discussion. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more like it. Sharing this video or my channel in general on social media would also be a big help, but if you want to go the extra mile in supporting my content more so than YouTube does, consider pledging to my Patreon page for as little as $1 a month. You'll get behind-the-scenes updates and a credit at the end of my videos if you do. Thank you so very much for watching. I will see you the next time I see you.